marble edifice, which is Brooklyn Borough Hall, with its majestic columns and classic detailing, is one of the many civic, residential, and commercial restorations that are taking place throughout America. It is an example of the growing international historic preservation movement, a movement which preserves the architectural past in an effort to understand why we are who we are individually and as nations. Among the many types of projects advanced under the aegis of the preservation movement, Brooklyn Borough Hall is privileged to be continuing in its original use as the center of government for Brooklyn, maintaining not only its external integrity, but also its internal identity.
Borough Hall is a very significant monument, and it's increasing the awareness of the importance of history and historic restoration and the significance of monumentality in our society.
I dare say there's a person in the plaza surrounding us right now as we talk that doesn't have a much greater interest in the subject of historic preservation than they did 10 years ago. Everyone's excited about it. They realize the values that can be achieved through restoring physical parts of history.
Our responsibility is to maintain the city's municipal buildings. The Brooklyn Borough Hall is a very important historical monument for the city. It's a very important part of the seat of local government. The borough president, Howard Golden, was very, very active in wanting us to work with the Borough of Brooklyn to upgrade and restore the building to its magnificence.
And so the first thing we did really was to engage in literary research, that is all the written records about the building that existed in Brooklyn, and technical research in terms of probes in the building, and until we developed hopefully a rather complete history of how the building had evolved over time, how it had changed. We actually wrote a book on the building itself. And that really all occurred before we sort of established our approach. So we attempted to, get as thoroughly involved as we could. We also did historic American building survey drawings of the outside and inside of the building to record exactly what it was like before we began the reconstruction.
Research revealed that Brooklyn has grown similarly to most of America's waterway towns. Beginning as a port, subsequent land speculation by the wealthy and the development of transportation drew the population inland. To mark such development, a prime piece of land, mutually advantageous to its donors and recipients, was then chosen as the site on which to build a city hall. Buildings designed or built during the early Republic were typically designed in the classical revival style, which manifested architecturally the influences of Rome's Republic and the democracy of Greece, which had substantially affected America's founding fathers in their political and aesthetic philosophies. Crowning these early Republic city halls, we generally find a tower, the keynote of the Republic's aspirations. When Brooklyn became a city in 1834, an architectural competition was held for the design of the city's new civic centerpiece. A New York City architect, Calvin Pollard, won the competition with a, quote, chaste and beautiful classical structure. However, the nation's fiscal plight ended construction at the foundation level in 1837. In 1842, a resolution to finish City Hall was passed. However, it was not until 3 years later that a local grocer, as well as carpenter-builder, Gamaliel King, was selected to be the architect for the building we see today. Considered one of New York's finest Greek Revival buildings, it is beautifully proportioned with simple, elegant detailing, hallmarked by the Ionic columns of the entrance portico. The building's symmetry is emphasized by its cupola or tower, which originally housed a bell that was used to announce fires. The original cupola caught fire in 1895 and was replaced by the cast iron one under restoration today. The bell, removed from the cupola in 1944, will also be restored. Brooklyn Borough Hall was designated a New York City landmark in 1966. In 1980, Brooklyn Borough President Howard Golden, in conjunction with the Department of General Services of the City of New York, began the process for a complete renewal of the building, establishing goals of quality, usefulness, and historical accuracy. Restoration is the work of many individuals, each involved in specific and unique tasks.
First of all, the architect designates what stone is to be repaired. Having done that, we'll select a stone. In fact, in this case, we're trying to use the old steps, which were going to be covered by the new restoration, and we're using the heart of this stone to replace the stone in the columns. This gives us a perfect match. It's our philosophy to repair stone with stone. We don't do cement patches. That's for what they call them, the maintenance people. We repair stone with stone. That's the proper way to do it. We make deep cuts to make sure we get rid of the friable stone, which is most difficult because as you get to the edges, it's hard to keep a very sharp arris. And it's most difficult to get a very good Dutchman. And a Dutchman, you know, is a stone patch. Then again, it's difficult when you try to put large pieces in, because the larger the pieces, the better it will look in the final work. The small pieces make it look pot-marked. So the job takes a lot of skill, and you've got to use stainless steel dowels to dowel it in, make sure it's mortared full, so that you get a good solid repair that will last a long, long time.
I'm the project manager here. I'm in charge of running the outside of the job, the exterior marble work. And I'm in charge of doing the field surveys, cataloging the building, proposing Dutchmen and cracks to be fixed and tooling on the building. And we put together shop drawings from that. I come up here and take a look at what the architectural plan calls for, and also take a look at what deficit has been removed from the building facade, and then try to make a determination as to what I'm going to do to that particular stone. The deficit is basically a concrete patch. It's made out of cement with a little bit of marble dust, bits of marble chips. What will happen is I will go through the entire building elevation calling out in green and in purple for the Dutchman and the tooling. What happens later on is we'll number each one of these particular items. So the Dutchman will get a number from 1 to, let's say, 20. And then what I'll do is I'll come up here and I'll measure it. We measure from the edge of the stone, and that's called joint to joint. And this particular piece of stone is 3 feet 11 3/4 inches. So on one of my shop drawing schedules, I'll have stone number 1 as 3 feet 11 3/4 inches long by about 5 inches in thickness. And I add this to my shop drawing also. And this is what we do for all of the facades. This is what's left of the metal dowel that they put in the building between the two pieces of marble. When they put it in, it was probably about 3.5 inches long. Probably about, looks of the hole, is probably about 3/8 of an inch diameter. Piece of metal. Still not too bad, but it's pretty well rusted out. This one's a wood dowel. I'll see if I can work it loose. Okay, here it comes. All right. You can see what shape that's in. Okay. All right, that's where it's just completely deteriorated. Today, we're using stainless steel dowels. 3/8 inch in diameter, about 3 inches long. Lasts forever. Not like this.
Being involved in the restoration of Brooklyn Borough Hall brings a unique range of personal rewards.
It's really exciting. It has all the excitement of the archaeological search in which you look in and probe the building and find out its history and discover a bit about the history and a little bit about the people who made the building and those who used it, and then you discover a little bit better how to restore it, as well as the great pleasure of seeing the building come to life again in its newly recreated form.
Most anybody can do a new job, buy slabs of stone and slap them on the wall. When it comes to restoration, it's a real art. And it takes men with dedication, it takes men with a lot of skill, and when you're done with the job, you really have a sense of satisfaction.
And I'll tell you, when that stone column moved into place, it's actually used structurally in the building. In a strange way, I felt more like an architect than I have ever felt before in my life. Suddenly, a real Greek column, that we had designed, in effect, and put into place, gave one a sense of authenticity that is just unequaled in architectural practice.
You become a part of history. You're restoring and keeping our heritage alive. As you know, Brooklyn Borough Hall is the most prestigious building in Brooklyn. And after all, I was born in Brooklyn on Brooklyn Avenue, and I still have an office on Brooklyn Avenue, and even my children were born in Brooklyn Hospital. So Brooklyn is a deep part of me, and it's a very, very advantageous and satisfactory thing to be able to become part of Brooklyn in restoring its history.
It uplifts the whole neighborhood, and you don't find buildings made like this anymore. With the stone columns, and inside's going to be all new marble and all the old-fashioned wrought iron. When you walk into it, it's like a piece of history you're looking at.
Well, I love the building, and I want to make sure the building get back to what it was before. That's all. I think it's a wonderful idea to keep restoring all these old buildings.
Like fellows who worked on the Empire State Building years ago probably would say, I worked on the Empire State Building because it's something that stands. And now, when this job is finished, I'll be able to say that I worked on the restoration of Borough Hall.
The restoration of Brooklyn Borough Hall is the result of the efforts engendered by government administrators, architects, and builders to reestablish the core of a civic center and to provide a symbol of unity, hope, and aspiration with which its citizens can once again identify. By saving historic buildings and their original materials, we increase our appreciation of the irreplaceable and extend our reach in an effort to grasp the eternal nature of history and to attain an understanding of our place within its context.